Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote. I'm your podcast host on today's episode. And today we have John Cioffredi, owner of Community Strength Austin. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, some best practices that he's learned along the way, and some challenges as well to give you that inside look to what it's like to own and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when we drop episodes like this. Welcome, John. It's so great to meet you.
Thanks, Kay. Happy to be here.
All right. Well, before we dive into learning about your business, I'd love to get to know you. Can you share a bit about yourself?
Sure. Born and raised in New Hampshire. Most people will say that I'm the first person they've ever met from New Hampshire. Totally fair. Small state, but probably the coolest state motto, live free or die. Fits pretty well here in Texas as well. But grew up there, spent some time in Wisconsin, competed for a Division I track and field program there, and then lived in Italy for a little while, and then eventually made my way to Texas just because I heard great things about Austin and wanted to see what all the hype was about.
That's super cool. I love hearing about your worldly journey and your way down to this beautiful sunny state. Let's dive in. How did you get started with Community Strength Austin?
So it was a little bit of a roundabout journey. So competed in track and field in college, was more of the strength and conditioning route out of that. And then when I moved to Austin, needed a job. Personal training was kind of the closest thing that related to what I had been experiencing. So popped into that, spent a couple of years working at a really excellent studio here in Austin, and then decided, it's great what they're doing. I would love to do it on my own. Opened up Community Strength Austin, the brick and mortar, about a year ago.
Oh, very cool. Well, let's dive into a little bit about your why. It sounds like you obviously have a background in athletics. What was your why behind, starting this Community Strength Austin? Like, was there like an aha moment that hit you, or how did that look?
Honestly, it wasn't one moment. It was just I enjoyed what I was doing at the other studio. As with any business, I think that if you're running it, you might do things a little bit differently. And I loved how the owners were able to empower their employees, and I thought that was a really cool thing to be able to do, and wanted to try and do that on my own. So it honestly just kind of grew organically from that. Just the desire to kind of improve on what we'd already been doing and see what it would look like if I was holding reins.
Oh, very cool. Well, looking at the business as it is now, how many years have you been in business?
So the company has been in LLC for 2.5 years. We opened up the brick and mortar last January, so like a year and a quarter now in the space that we're
Okay.
currently
Just taking a couple notes. Okay. And now how many employees do you have right now? Are you like growing, or what's the studio look like?
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate to have pretty quick growth. So we have 3 employees that are working for us currently, W-2s. Looking to hire on another one probably in the next few months, and then maybe 1 or 2 more by the end of the year. And then we'll see what happens after that. We've been very fortunate to have a really quick start with our business, and hopefully look to expand after we outgrow the place that we're currently in.
Definitely. And how has that growth been going so far? Has there been any challenges that have come up, or has it been pretty smooth sailing so far?
On the whole, I think that we've been fortunate. I did a lot of research just in making sure that I was choosing a location that had the population to kind of support the service that we're offering. So obviously a little bit more high ticket, a little bit more affluent communities. So that was really good. Just kind of being patient to make sure that we were in the right neighborhood without a ton of competition around us. And then from there, it was just about making sure that we were visible locally. So making sure that our local SEO, search engine optimization, was dialed in, and taking care of all of that. But definitely hasn't been without challenges, especially when it comes to if you have kind of one primary lead source. If that lead source gets shaken up, which has happened a couple of times with Google's core updates in the last 6 months or so, it can lead for a little bit of turbulence. So that's part of the growing pains of owning the business. So we're diversifying our lead generation at this point with doing more of meta ads and referrals, referral relationships with different physicians and people that are associated with the health and wellness space here in Austin.
Okay, yes, that I was going to dive into kind of like the marketing structure that you have around the business. Are you looking at social media at all, or are you mostly focused on like the like SEO and kind of lead gen stuff?
Yeah, so I think when I think about what are going to be the avenues that are most successful for us, what I try and think about is how are people going to find our service? I think when it comes to a gym or maybe an online trainer, social media is definitely where people turn to. But typically, what we found is that most people, a good 95%, if they're looking for a service like personal training, they'll probably just type it into Google or search engine. So that's where we focused a lot of our time and effort on, and it seems to have paid off.
Oh, wonderful. Now, at your location, is it set up like a gym, or is it more so an office for personal trainers and they go on location? Like, what's kind of the structure?
It's a private fitness facility, so we have mostly free weights, cable machines, dumbbells, mostly functional fitness. So if people are looking for bodybuilding, honestly, there are probably better options. But for weight loss, for functional training, for athletic performance, it really fits our needs.
Okay, okay, that really helps me paint a picture of what you're offering. Looking at, you mentioned a little bit about your ideal clients. Can you go into detail, like if I were to walk in your doors, how would I know I'd be a great fit for you?
Yeah, so people usually come to us for one of four reasons. So a lot of people are looking for weight loss, so decreasing that body fat percentage, increasing their strength. Some people are coming to put on more muscle mass. A third group is looking for more of like the health and longevity and that functional training that we touched on before. And then the fourth group is the athletic population that's looking to enhance their performance, optimize their results. So we work with a lot of runners and tennis players as well.
Okay, so this is very like athletics, like a higher caliber of athletics in a way.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the smallest percentage that we work with. The majority of people are looking for either functional fitness or weight loss typically.
Wow, that's incredible. And as you're growing, like what's really been setting you apart from like either competition or like what's been your secret sauce? I guess if there is secret sauce to standing out in the community.
For sure. It's a great question. I think that a lot of the times people aren't quite sure what to look for when it comes to personal training. So a lot of our intro call is just kind of giving them a picture of what we do and why it is that they might go with us over other training studios. So the big three that we always talk about is most personal trainers usually retire after about 3 years from the industry. So it's a pretty big turn and burn when it comes to just the actual profession itself. All of
Hmm.
our trainers have been working for at least 5 years, average of 7. So we have a really good veteran training staff that has experience working with people from all walks of life with a number of different goals. So it allows us to be very effective and very efficient in terms of being able to address people's needs and the individual that's in front of us. So that's the first one is just the veteran trainers. The second one is our consultation process. So a lot of places offer a free workout, which is awesome. Everyone loves a good free workout, myself included. But it doesn't really give us a whole lot of insight onto how your body moves and how we can address your specific goals. So there's a number of things, especially with weight loss or functional training, that we have to understand before we get into the training to make sure that we understand what it is exactly that you need so that we can give you an expert prescription on what we're going to do with you. So a lot of it is just our consultation process, taking through the flexibility, mobility, movement patterns so that we have a really good idea of what limitations, if any, that you have when we're starting to make sure that, if you have a tight pec minor and your lats are locked up, that we're not going straight into overhead pressing because that might compromise the integrity of the shoulder. Or if we're looking at weight loss, what are we already doing well and what do we need to address in order to see that weight come off? So just really having a good idea of what people are coming for and making sure that we're able to help them with that. So that's the second one is the consultation process. And then the third one is that nutrition piece that we talked about. So we have a pretty fleshed out nutrition program that is rather unique. And so something that I've built in-house and seems to work pretty well. So we're pretty proud of that. And the goal of it is really to just kind of help you put your weight loss on autopilot. A lot of people think that, they have to be getting a certain amount of sunlight or resetting their leptin hormones and stuff. And while all of that's great and well, a lot of it just comes down to making sure that the healthy choice is the easy choice and it's one that we can make repeatedly. What we like to say is that in order for a habit to be sustainable, it has to be easy, repeatable, and preferable. So that's what we do to help people make sure that they're losing weight at the rate that they want and keeping it for long term.
Wonderful. It sounds incredible. I really love what you're saying. I think there's like a lot of golden nuggets in what you're saying because you have such defined characteristics of your business, defined like what you do, what sets you apart. I think that's something that a lot of business owners would resonate with. So thank you for sharing that. Looking at kind of what you want to see within the business here in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see it going?
I think it's a great question. I'm honestly still open to the ideas. I think that one-on-one and small group training is amazing. I really love just being able to pay a lot of attention to the individual in front of me. That wasn't something that we could really do when we were working with 20 or 30 athletes when I was working at Wisconsin. So I really appreciate that, but I will say that I want to figure out ways to integrate more of the community aspect into the gym itself, whether that be through cooking classes where we're just trying to make healthy recipes or free community workouts on a monthly basis. That's been something that's been on my mind, and I think that that's where I really want to try and grow the business in the next couple of years. Is just continue to see success on the individual level, and then also growing the community on a global level.
Oh, definitely. And that's a very educational component too to help the community.
Absolutely.
Really dig that. And looking kind of at taking it back to your team, you have a growing team.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe your leadership style with your team?
For my leadership style, I'm someone that I really appreciate being able to have autonomy in a position. So I try and empower my employees to do the same. So my staff is very highly qualified. We just put on a seminar yesterday for bench press biomechanics. I learned a ton from them. So it's one of those things where I think that just being able to have a culture of knowledge and growing that knowledge is super important. So my management style, honestly, is just giving them the tools they need to succeed, and then just painting the picture of this is the direction that we're going to make sure that everyone's on board with it. So I'm very fortunate to have a very highly skilled staff, and it makes my job a lot easier and be a lot more easy.
Very true. Do you have any like wisdom nuggets on how to select a good staff? Because I know hiring can be a really big challenge for many businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a process that I have built out over the course of the last couple of years. So my process personally consists of a few different rounds. So we have 4 rounds essentially, which the first one is them just filling out a questionnaire to assess kind of what their knowledge is like, what their training style is like, and what they're looking for to just see if it's compatible with what we're offering. Sometimes people are looking for working 10 or 20 hours a week. We like to have full-time trainers, so it's just good to kind of get that right off the bat, just understand if it's a good fit on that level. And then from there, if it looks good, we'll have them do mock programming for these fictional clients, for a weight loss client, and then a hypertrophy client, to get a sense of what their programming looks like and if it just kind of makes sense with our ethos and our philosophy as a gym. If that looks good, they'll go on to the culture fit interview, where we really try and get a better idea of who they are as a person, and if they fit our core values. And if that looks good, they'll come in for the fourth and final interview, where they'll coach me through a session. We'll talk, we'll do some feedback and stuff, and kind of just talk a little bit more about what the role would look like, and if that's something that would fit what they're looking for.
Oh, wow. Incredible. Absolutely love that you've built that out. Looking at kind of what you're growing in now within the team and within the business itself, do you see any challenges that are presenting now as you're in a growth period?
Yeah, I think it's just making sure that your processes are put down on paper and easy to follow. So it's been a lot about just creating checklists to make sure what my expectations are crystal clear, that they're reasonable expectations, and that having the staff feel comfortable executing them. So that's been a big part of it, and just kind of figuring out the software to go with it. To be honest, there's a lot of balls that we're juggling. And when you want to make sure that you're providing an excellent service, that entails a lot in terms of just check-ins, goal setting sessions, making sure that everyone has the resources available to them. So a lot of it is just trying to make sure that we automate what we can while still providing that finesse and that human touch that's needed.
Definitely. Automation is such a key, especially these days when it's like, as the owner, you're not just the owner, you have so many hats you're wearing, and then
Mm-hmm.
getting into that admin nitty gritty, I could see that being, taking up a lot of time sometimes. So, do you have any things that you're doing currently to help mitigate some of that?
Right now, honestly, we're trying to figure out what those look like. I think that Excel has been one of the very few things where it's like, if you just have Excel sheets with a number of tabs, it's not the sexiest or the most glamorous, but it does centralize a lot of the information and allow for people to see it under one document. So that's been helpful. But I think that as we continue to grow, having some sort of integration that allows us to quickly send information to new clients, set up those check-ins, set up those goal setting sessions with a little bit less of a personal touch on our end or a human interaction there. I think that that would be super helpful. So open to suggestions, but that's one of the areas that we're still covering.
Definitely, definitely, especially as you're in growth mode for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and looking at the future of business and where you want to see the business growing, do you see any emerging leaders on your team for more management roles, or is that something you like, or what's kind of the goal for team growth?
Yeah, absolutely. Eventually, when we have multiple locations, we're going to have a studio manager at the flagship location. So that's going to be important. It's been interesting. We've had a number of very high level coaches in Austin approach us and just say, like, hey, I would love to partner with you guys. We see what you're doing. We really like your philosophy. We'd love to join your team. And I definitely welcome that. We love having high level staff. But what I'm very transparent about is that anyone who's going to kind of be promoted to the studio manager or beyond that position is going to be hired from within, just because it's one of those things that it requires a lot of trust, and it also requires that individual to really have a very firm grasp of what the culture is of the gym and what it means to be a part of our team. So I'm very happy to say that all of our hires are fantastic people. Management is one that requires a little bit of a different skill set from training, just in the sense that you have to be comfortable kind of confronting conflict in a way that is productive and also empathetic. So those are skills that might not necessarily be inherent for someone who's a personal trainer, but are definitely necessary for someone who's going to be in a management position. So we definitely are excited and have a lot of opportunities to promote from within. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to when the time comes.
Definitely. And I'd love to hear kind of what your successes are for like dealing with conflict resolution and in a way that's productive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I think that first and foremost, I never send anything that could be taken any sort of way except for positively through text. So I think that just making sure you're having face-to-face interactions. We can create stories in our head, but at the end of the day, if you're face-to-face with someone, you're usually a lot kinder, and typically the message is received a lot more positively. So that's one thing that I emphasize is just making sure, like, hey, if there is something, if we're having a conversation via text that feels like it might be going down a road that might not be exactly where we want it to be, just saying like, hey, can we talk about this in the gym tomorrow? And set aside some time to just really talk it out respectfully. And I think that's been very helpful. It's just making sure that people feel that they're heard and that they're respected. In my experience, most of the time when conflict arises or people get upset, it's usually because of either a lack of control or a lack of respect perceived. And so I think that just making sure that people feel respected and that they feel like they have that autonomy, I think that goes a long way. Just feeling like they're trusted to do their job well. And so that's what I try and emphasize. It's just like, hey, I know that you guys are great professionals. I don't need to tell you how to do your job. Sometimes it's just nice to have a gentle reminder of what we're looking to do and how we're looking to do it.
Definitely. That I get another golden nugget for the conversation. Like that is so powerful because when you think about business and stuff, sometimes that in face or like in person, face to face, or even if it's a phone call, at least to hear the voice tone, it makes a world of difference.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a great conversation so far. Now I'd like to dive into our rapid fire section where I ask you four questions and you answer very top of mind. So, John, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Ready or not, here we come.
All right. Question number one is, what is the key to success for you?
I think stay true to your vision.
Definitely. Love that. And I love how your rapid fires are.
Try to be
And
concise.
number two is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
I would say just make sure that what it's going to look like on the daily basis is something that you enjoy. I think it's very easy to get attracted to the overall idea of what something might be, but the boots on the ground, day-to-day operations might look very different. So just make sure that that is something that a process that you really enjoy and want to invest in, both time-wise and probably financially as well.
Definitely, absolutely agree with that. And number three is what is maybe a book that you've read, a podcast that you've listened to, something that's resonated with you?
I think that honestly, Alex Hormozy has just got so much wisdom. He's someone that's already very popular in the space, but from both marketing, sales, and just kind of an operations standpoint, I think that he's one of the best in the game.
Yes, it's funny that you say that because it's like whenever I'm having one of those moments where I'm just frazzled, I like go on Instagram and there he is saying something that's like just what I need in that moment.
Yep, yeah,
He's the
absolutely.
best.
He takes a lot of golden nuggets.
Yes, and the fourth question, final question is if you could wave a magic wand and overnight improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Right now, I think it would be automation. That is something that
Mhm.
we're looking to just figure out. I'm not a particularly tech savvy person, so I need all the help I can get.
Oh, that's what, yes, very, very true. Well, thank you so much, John, for answering the rapid fire. Before we get into our final question, how can people connect with you and your business online?
If you just Google Community Strength Austin, you'll find us. We have Instagram, we have Facebook. We're not super active on either of them, but if you get in touch with us via the website, we'll definitely hit you back.
Wonderful. Happy to stay connected. And for our final question today, what is most inspiring to you today?
Most inspiring to me today, I think it's just people that really take the chance to do something and go out on a limb when they're not quite sure how it's going to work out. I think that that takes a lot of courage, and it's something that I find inspiring and something that I try and embody in my own life.
Ah, well, those are inspiring words to me as well as our listeners. John, again, thank you so much for your time today being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Kay.